McCarthy.
In Kevin McCarthy's bid to become Speaker, he has now lost his 13th round of voting. But it's getting very close. So he is now on the verge of potentially becoming Speaker. It could be today. It could be this weekend. I will show you the numbers. I'll discuss what happened, which also includes now a clear reason as to why these people, these Republicans, were against McCarthy and what he has now given up in exchange for their support, which could be absolutely devastating to the average American. So, before I get to that terrible news, let me show you here what the numbers are at. So, of course, after the 13th ballot here, Kevin McCarthy now at 214, Hakeem Jeffries at 212, which has stayed the same this entire time. All Democrats have backed Jeffries, and other now at 6. So McCarthy, of course, needs 218 to be able to become Speaker. He has whittled that number down considerably, and it appears he will likely win this fight, considering how close it now is. But let me, we'll first show you a live shot here. So we are on the verge, as of recording this, of the 13th vote. So that will, it says it's possible today, likely will be today. I see Paul Gosar there, looking rather interesting. He'll come up in a second. So here are the 6 members that are still holding out against McCarthy: Andy Biggs, Lauren Boebert, Eli Crane, Matt Gaetz, Bob Good, Matt Rosendale. And here is Gosar going directly from talking to Gaetz to flipping to McCarthy. He then immediately leaves the chamber. Bizarre scene. So this one is so Gosar, of course, one of the most extreme members of the House. Here he is flipping to McCarthy.
Gosar. McCarthy.
It's bizarre to me, and this is not just about this vote. This is life generally. When there is someone who is just a complete asshole, and then they're nice for one moment, it's like they get all the credit in the world. Oh, you're such a great person because you were nice this one time. Meanwhile, they're part of the problem here. Like Gosar has been holding up the vote the entire time. Yeah, they all, oh yes, good job, Gosar. Thank you, great guy. The reason you're all still here is because of people like him. But that's a whole other topic. Let me show you. Also, here is Rosendale just trolling people at this point.
Kevin!
Hearn.
So he yells Kevin as, oh, is it McCarthy? No, it's Hearn. Clown. These people are clowns. All right, so what is the breakthrough? I'll get to what the breakthrough is, but from Axios here, the breakthrough comes after McCarthy hosted a GOP conference call Friday morning and expressed optimism after a night of negotiations, 2 sources on the call said. But no official deal has been reached, and even an agreement with a handful of persuadable rebels would not clinch the votes McCarthy needs to become Speaker. But he said on the conference call that more votes are possible over the weekend. And based on where the numbers, how far they have swung, it at one point was about 20 members against him, of his own side against him. Now he only needs a few more to become Speaker. I think it's very likely he'll end up pulling this out, if not today, then this weekend. But here is where we get to the issue. All right, so listen to Manu Raju here, CNN, discuss what this deal's about.
And also, one very important thing he said that was part of the deal is dealing with raising the national debt limit. He just told a group of us that they address this issue. This is going to be a major flashpoint in the new Congress. They have to avoid a debt default, and that's going to happen sometime this year, maybe in the middle part of this year. He said there's some agreement on how to deal with that. One thing he said is they would not agree to a clean debt ceiling increase, meaning they need some conditions tied to avoid a national debt default, which has never happened happened in American history. So that is going to be a huge fight going forward. But from what Scott Perry just told a group of us, that was part of this deal that has not yet been publicly released, but that apparently was reached between a handful of these holdouts and Kevin McCarthy. So this deal, not just process, giving them more leverage over the speaker, that being able to oust the sitting speaker with one individual doing that, having more members of those hard right Freedom Caucus on some of the key committees, but policy implications as well.
All right, so let me tell you why this matters, because the reality is they're not going to allow a default on the debt. It's not. They will raise the debt ceiling, but they will raise it under conditions. So the reason why they won't allow it would cause a global recession. They're not going to. It would destroy all the companies that back them. These are all corporate politicians, the vast majority of them. It's not. There's not going to be a default, but them agreeing to some policy changes to agree to raising the debt ceiling, what that likely means is cuts to government programs, cuts to Medicare, cuts to Social Security, cuts that would directly hurt the average person. So remember this when you think about, aren't these populist, these populist Republicans that are anti-McCarthy? Populist for who? Their angle here is to whittle down the government so much that programs that people depend on, including their voters, depend on, Medicare, Social Security, they will destroy them simply as a way to shrink the government down as much as they possibly can. So that's the threat here now. And part of the issue, I'll get to in a second, but Zachary Carter here writes, your periodic reminder that Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen has the authority to eliminate debt ceiling drama and assure financial markets about the integrity of U.S. government debt by minting $1 trillion platinum coin. So look, I'm no expert here, but I trust Zachary Carter. I trust his opinion. I know for a fact that there is no way Janet Yellen will do that, but of course she would have the authority, apparently, to avoid all of this drama. But actually, before I even get to this clip here, this is what I'm talking about. So Democrats could have prevented this whole fight. Paul Krugman here. In particular, I was baffled by the failure of Democrats to use the lame duck session to raise the debt ceiling. They could have raised the debt ceiling during the lame duck before this change in Congress, before the GOP took control of the House. Yet they didn't. Maybe the idea was that Republicans could be shamed into avoiding a crisis later this year. Really? No, they're not going to be. Shame. I know this is not Krugman's position, but any Democrat that thinks you can shame a Republican, you just saw the past 3 days, the past 4 days, what's been going on in the House. They don't give a shit. No, they will push for cuts to Medicare, to Social Security, and they will laugh while doing it. Also, again, worth mentioning, I brought this up in a different video this week, but the top priority of all these Republicans, the ones that are pro-McCarthy, the ones that are anti-McCarthy, all of them, their top priority is to protect wealthy tax dodgers by defunding the IRS. So there was recently new funding given to the IRS to specifically focus on wealthy tax dodgers. That is their directive with that funding. Here, of course, their first move is to defund the IRS, pretending it's about helping the average American, when in reality, they're doing this now because of the directive for the IRS to go after the wealthy, which, of course, the wealthy back these massive, also wealthy politicians. It all is incredibly disgusting. Just a quick summary here from Mr. Parker Butler. If Republicans elect a speaker, their first vote will likely be to protect rich tax cheats by keeping the ultra-wealthy's IRS audit rates low. Later, they plan to hold the entire U.S. economy hostage, using the debt ceiling to force cuts to Social Security and Medicare. That's what you need to know. So we will likely have a new speaker this weekend, or not new, but McCarthy this weekend. It looks like they're starting nominations now for the 14th vote. Or they're announcing, I guess, the 13th vote, but we will get to the 14th vote, I'm sure, today. But ultimately, it comes at the cost potentially of massive cuts to Medicare and Social Security.